Hey, welcome to Texas Football Talk. I'm your host, Jeremy Lockby, once again joined by my brother Clint. In this episode, a 21 fall preview. Yes, camp has started, but we're going to continue going through these positions, and we're going to continue with the wide receiver position. How you doing, brother?
Hey, pretty good. Like you put in I think you put the title of this video, are they going to be all gas, no brakes? And I think that's important, man. You have, when you look at the wide receiver position, I think you have experience mixed in with young talent. If you look at the top couple of guys, and Jordan Whittington and Joshua Moore, obviously they've been around campus. Maybe not a lot of starts in between a lot of them. We'll kind of get it detail each one of these guys as we go through the position. But I think there's experience, and then within that experience, I think you have some young talents. I think what you'll see, just like you've seen at Alabama, you're not going to see a lot of rotations with this receiving core. Your thoughts, man, on the experience and what you expect out of the rotations?
Like you said, they've been on campus for a while, talking about Jordan Whittington, talking about Josh Moore, Kelvonte Woodard. But like you said, don't have a whole lot of playing time. And truth be told, this is really Jordan Whittington's second year as a receiver because initially he came in a couple of years ago as a running back, wore 21, and it was in that running back room. So this is only his second year as a receiver. And you could tell his body's changed from that when he came on campus as a running back at Aquero to leaning up and now wearing number 4. And you could definitely tell the difference in his running back body with the extra body armor and his progression to the wide receiver room and getting a little bit leaner. But, yeah, I definitely agree. The best players will play. If you're making plays, I don't anticipate you coming off the field. Steve Sarkisian said that yesterday. He said, my anticipation is to let my best players play because that's what I owe my football team, is to put the best guys out there to give us the best chance to win. That being said, if they're tired, need to tap their helmet and come off, I think we got like you said, a young, versatile group that could take their place for a couple of plays and come out there and make plays themselves. But, yeah, that's kind of what I feel about the wide receiver room at this point.
I think you're right. I think it's one of these tap on the helmets. Tap on the helmet. I need a break real quick from shooting down, from a 9 routes. Hey, let me off the field for a play or two, then I'm coming back in. You want to talk about position. We talk about positionless football a lot. And I think if you go back and look at it, and Jeremy was telling me before we came on here to do this show, is that if you go look at what the position groups are, according to Texas Sports, they're not broken down into really, the specifics or details of that position. There's no H back, there's no H, there's no X, there's no Y, there's no Z, none of that. It's either your wide receiver or your tight end or your linebacker or your a defensive lineman and so on and so forth. And I think it doesn't matter in Steve Sarkisian's offense on what wide receiver runs what route. I think if I'm not mistaken, he expects every one of these wide receivers to be able to know the route tree from every position on that wide receiver group, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah. So and that leads us to our last point is if everybody has the ability to play those slot position or boundary or field side, then that does allow you to play your best players. Because if your top 3 can be interchangeable and move across the field, it helps you in two ways. It keeps the best position players on the field because they can rotate positions, but it also hurts the defense and allowing them to scheme for certain players. Like I know that Jordan Whittington's going to line up in this spot just about every single time. So I'm going to take my best defensive back and I'm going to put them and isolate them on this side of the field because he's always going to line up to the field side. Whereas if you could put him in the slot or Josh Moore to the outside or in the slot, then pre-snap it makes the defense have to make decisions on who the threat is. Is it Bijan Robinson coming out of the backfield, or is it Jordan Whittington in the slot or outside, or Joshua Moore and Troy Omeire? And that's why it's in this fall camp that guys like Whittington, Moore, Omeire, and then Worthy, the guys that folks are really, really talking about, separate themselves as those top 4 receivers, 5 receivers. Hopefully we get a couple more that we feel can give quality time and make quality plays with this all gas, no brakes offense. But that's what it allows you to do.
Yeah, create mismatches across really across the offense. Trying to line up let's just say a Troy Omeire, someone that's 6'3", 6'3", 220 pounds on a smaller defensive back, or a guy that or like he did in the national championship game, have your wide receiver, your best wide receiver in the country, a Heisman Trophy winner, on a linebacker across the middle for a touchdown. I think that's what he's able to do as a play caller, but it also doesn't limit these wide receivers to a specific group.
Yeah, and more than that, misalignments and missed assignments. Again, because a lot of his stuff is motioning back. We saw that, like you said, against Ohio State, where he take Devontae Smith and he reverse motion. He'd send him across the line to figure out what the coverage was, and then he'd bring him back across the line of scrimmage. Once he figured out his man and there was a slower guy, then that was the mismatch that he got and wanted to execute and utilize. But that's the key. More mismatches, misalignments, and then hoping that they bust coverages in the back end based upon matchups, like you said.
Let's talk about verified track speed, because there's a lot of it on this team. If you're looking at this wide receiver group, you're talking about guys like Xavier Worthy that have ran 10.55 100-meter dashes as sophomores. You got an individual in Kelvonte Dixon that can take the top off the defense as well. And then looking at your freshmen, you're talking about guys like Dejon Harrison and Jaden Alexis. Jaden Alexis being out of Florida and being one of the top, track stars in the state of Florida. This verified track speed is something that Steve Sarkisian's, I think, wanted. And I think he didn't, because a lot of these guys aren't his recruits that he brought in, outside of probably Xavier Worthy, who, obviously he recruited to Alabama and then went to Michigan and so on and so forth. But the verified track speed on this team is pretty good, man, from a wide receiver core group.
And why it's important is it allows you, if you're not the best route runner and you can't create separations through your route tree, then you can have that extra buffer if you're just faster than the guy. If you can get out of your break and downfield fast, especially on those deep routes like seam routes and post corners where you're taking off and a lot of times he'll line them up off the line of scrimmage to give them that two-way go to where they can't get bumped off the line of scrimmage by a DB, which again, if they can get to that top speed like you're talking about with a Worthy and a Kane and a Harrison and those guys, Jaden Alexis, then they don't have to run as precise of a route to get open because, again, they have breakaway speed that come out of the break and they can hit the top speed and be where they need to be to get the ball delivered to them either by Casey Thompson or Hudson Card. It just gives you a buffer.
And the last thing, Phil Steele, obviously got to kind of go all into kind of Phil Steele, got to get our stats and so on and so forth. It has Texas is the 9th best wide receiver room in the nation. And that I think that includes the tight ends, because you're probably going to see a lot of the tight ends, obviously, and we'll get to that position group probably, here in the near future. But really, really excited about this wide receiver room. And I think we'll just kind of break down really the details of each guy that we have, man. Start with Jordan Whittington, number 4, 6'1", 203 pounds, sophomore, 5-star. He's a 5-star guy, man. Out of Cuero, Texas, played the 2000 All-American Bowl. He was the number 2 wide receiver according to ESPN when he first came out. The number 2 wide receiver, third-year wide receiver who's played in 6 career games with 2 starts. But in those games, caught 21 passes for 206 yards and rushed 3 times for 50 yards and 1 touchdown. I didn't realize that he had 10 receptions against Oklahoma. And that's, so when he's there, he's making plays, but at the same time, they weren't big plays. It seemed like, he's getting short passes. I think those 10 receptions went for 65 yards. But I think as a fan base, we know what's kind of kept Whittington down at this particular point, and that was really injuries. As long as he can stay healthy, and knock on wood, he's been healthy so far this year. I think that he's going to have an opportunity to go out there and do big things for this offense this year. Your thoughts on Jordan Whittington?
So Jordan Whittington, for me, like you said, it took him a little while to get into his career because, again, initially he started out in the running back room where we needed additional help. But then as he transitioned to the wide receiver room and started getting out there, that's when – well, we know the hernia injury was as a running back, but last year, consistently on the field, play in and play out again with the lack of rotations. He probably needed to see the field in more reps more than any other player as he transitioned from the running back room to the wide receiver room. He is, in my opinion, probably him and Joshua Moore are the most proven commodities you have out there. So looking for him and Josh Moore to kind of lead this group. Again, we talked about Xavier Worthy being the breakout player in fall camp or early summer camp. This year, we talked about Troy Omeire being that guy in the 2020 year. So ton of potential in those two, but we need to see, starting with Jordan Whittington, production on the football field. And I think he's finally getting comfortable out there. Like I said, it took him a little while for his career as a wide receiver to get started, but now looking for him to build up to being that number 2 wide receiver in his class and start to make plays for the university.
But it sounds like he's getting trust, from this coaching staff, from the offensive coaching staff. It seems like that trust is there. And again, iron sharpens irons, man. You get these young guys that come in here and push you that much harder. I think the sky's the limits for Jordan Whittington. Let's just hope he stays, injury free and he has an opportunity to show his potential as that 5-star from that 2019 class. Do you have something else to add to that, Jeremy?
No, I was ready to go to Josh. Okay. So Joshua Moore, the most productive returning receiver for the Longhorns, 30 catches, 472 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Again, he had a tremendous freshman year. Then, unfortunately, he was suspended for his sophomore year. So, again, he's going to be classified as a junior this year, but has been productive since he got on campus. I just remember him catching a touchdown pass on a post route. I think it was against Maryland or USC in his freshman year, and thinking, this guy laid out for that ball, ton of talent, gets open all the time, able to make big plays. Again, 9 touchdowns last year in 10 games. So very productive, finds his way to the end zone. Under Armour All-American in 2018 and started 10 games last year. So once he came back from suspension, was highly productive, the most productive football player in this wide receiver room last year, and looking for some more of the same this year.
Yeah, 2 things I want to bring up with Josh Moore, and I think, obviously size matters, and I think from what it sounds like, they put some healthy weight on Joshua Moore going into the 2021 season. The other thing is that he has a knack for going up and getting the 50-50 balls. He's done that on multiple occasions. Like you're talking about a guy that doesn't have a lot of size, that's able to go up against these defensive backs and bring the ball down with contact.
With Josh, it's more body contortion. Like he can go up and put his body in weird spaces to be able to catch, and he's a hands catcher. He doesn't have to catch the ball with the body, so he gets extended. Like I say, he's able to contort his body, and I think that's where his kind of 170-pound like wiry frame helps him in those particular circumstances. To get he doesn't have a very large catch radius like another guy we're going to talk about here in a minute, Troy Omeire. But like you said, he's able to manipulate his body to get to the football, and like you said, for his frame, it's kind of crazy he's able to do that. But yeah, he does it all the time.
He's done it multiple times in the end zone, a couple of times on, against the, it's crazy to watch his hands. Like you said, he's a hand catcher. He's got really, really strong hands for a not so big guy. Next 2 guys we're going to talk about, man, are what should have been a breakout player last year, and what seems to be maybe a breakout player this year. In first one we'll talk about is Xavier Worthy, number 8, 6'1", 160-pound true freshman. 4-star in Fresno, California, number 8 wide receiver according to the Composite 247, number 62 best player in the country. Caught 55 passes for 992 yards, 16 touchdowns as a junior. Obviously, COVID kind of took away a year there in California. But verified track speed of 10.55, 100-meter guy as a sophomore in high school. That's crazy. I'd like to know what he run now. I'm probably somewhere in the 10.3s is what I'm thinking. But it's crazy to hear that the praise that you're hearing from both coaches and the players coming out of summer workouts, man. Again, he's a small stature guy like Joshua Moore, talking about a 6'1", 160-pound guy. But if you go look at what Steve Sarkisian had at Alabama, those guys weren't much bigger. So your thoughts, man, on Xavier Worthy, and do we believe the hype this early?
So we talked about Flash, that's his nickname, who was originally a commitment to Michigan. So before we got on here and started taping this episode, I was actually watching Xavier Worthy's, play at Centennial High School in California. He's gonna, number one, he's gonna play special teams. Like he's already the number 2 kick returner, from what I understand, out of Steve Sarkisian's press conference. And then there was an article written by Chip Brown in 247 that talks about the first day of practice and what he saw. And one of the things he saw was Xavier Worthy lining up to play kick return. But like you said, explosive. After the catch, has the ability to run away from angles. Like guys will have an angle to the sidelines and he'll just run right through it. Not really worried about his stature because, like you said, Steve Sarkisian showed in the past with guys like Devontae Smith that he can utilize this body type to get to space and make plays. And found a Heisman Trophy out of it. So excited for him. The summertime hype and the fall hype and the praise from the coaches. We were in this position last year, like I said, with Troy Omeire and Isaiah Hookfin. Troy Omeire unfortunately hurt his knee and wasn't able to play. And then Isaiah Hookfin very rarely saw the field, and we heard such great things about him. So let's skip through these 18, 19 practices that fall camp submits. Again, you'd rather hear this than the other way. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to see the field, or he's probably not going to be as productive, or he's not what we thought we got. So it's great to hear the praise, and it's great to hear the hype. But again, let's let this young man get through these 18, 20 practices that make up fall camp, and the best players will play. So if he's one of the best 4 or 5, he's definitely going to see the field, and excited to see his explosiveness, because you can definitely see it on film for sure.
All right. You want to tell us a little bit about Troy Omeire?
So definitely. So Troy Omeire wears number 21, is 6'3", 220 pound, redshirt freshman, 4-star from Fort Bend, Austin, Texas. This guy has a body type like no other. Basically, he wears 21. Reminds me a lot of guys that's going in the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend in Megatron, Calvin Johnson, who played for Georgia Tech and then many years for the Detroit Lions. But physical specimen, matchup nightmare for smaller defensive backs. Again, he was wearing a black jersey in the spring, coming off that ACL. Got an opportunity to see him work in the spring game. Again, he brings something else to this team that we don't have anywhere else on the roster, and that's that 6'3", 220 pound frame. 7 receptions for 56 yards and 1 touchdown the last 2 seasons. But yeah, just a different kind of specimen. Matchup nightmare. Just want to see, again, the potential's there. Want to see the production. And he was my breakout player on the offensive side of the field when we did our breakout players. So I expect to see him making plays this fall for the University of Texas. Yeah.
So what we're looking at is you talked about a little bit a while ago. You're talking about catch radius. You're talking about a guy that has catch radius. But to me, it's the way he's able to move is as big as what he is. If you go back and watch some of the clips of the videos from last year, him be able to, again, contort his body. That's one. As a big guy like that, probably shouldn't be able to do that. Number 2, be able to work across, the middle in space as a big guy as well. You've seen it, seen videos of him working across, in space, and finding that space and be able to contort his body to make really good catches. Really excited about Troy Omeire. Like you said, he was one of those guys who was supposed to break out in the 2020 season. Unfortunately, injury kind of bit him. But definitely excited to see him on the field with these speed guys that we do have. It just brings up a different matchup nightmare versus the guys taking the top off the defense. Moving on to Marcus Washington, one of my favorite guys, man. He's been one of my favorite guys over the last couple of years. 6'2", 191 pound, 4-star out of St. Louis, Missouri. Another one of those Under Armour All-American game selection guys. As you go up and down the roster, you see a lot of these 4- and 5-star guys that played in all these All-American bowls. If it was just the regular All-American bowl or it was the Under Armour. To me, it's more about consistency with Marcus Washington. You see big play potential there. At least, once or twice every couple of games. He'll go up there and make big plays, total receptions, 7 receptions, 56 yards, 1 touchdown over the past 2 seasons. Has the big play ability, but too many drop balls for my liking. And I think he just needs to clean that up. As obviously wide receivers, you get the ball thrown to you, you need to catch it. But I think the big playability is there. I think these needs to be more consistent.
Yeah, I want to fix one thing that I said about Troy Omeire. Of course, we know he's a redshirt freshman. He has no stats. So I actually credited him with Marcus Washington's 7 receptions for 56 yards and a touchdown. Those were actually Marcus's stats. I will say this, Marcus needs to be, again, you talk about a 4-star, 5-star All-American guy who needs to be more productive. We're going to go down the list. We're going to talk about Kelvonte Woodard, another guy who was the 104th best player in the country, an Under Armour All-American who hasn't been productive on the 40 acres. So again, like a lot of the positions on this roster, there's a ton of depth. We talk about 4- and 5-star guys all the time, but 4- and 5-star guys need to come to the University of Texas and be productive. And again, it could be a system issue. Again, they had Tim Beck, and then they had Mike Yursich, and now they have Kyle Flood / Steve Sarkisian. So again, just like the defense, you continue to see these guys, have to go through different systems and different playbooks and different receiver coaches. Again, Andre Coleman's, a holdover from the last staff. So hopefully that continuity will help guys like Marcus Washington continue to be more consistent. But again, the package is there. We just need to see the production to go with the package. My thoughts on Marcus.
Yeah, so I was a stats guy on the wide receiver numbers there, and I happened to put the same stat under both Marcus Washington and Troy Omeire. So Jeremy's, is going off the stats that I've given him. So I'll take the hit for that. So Kelvonte Dixon, your thoughts on Kelvonte Dixon, Jeremy?
So again, another East Texas guy who came on campus. We love these guys from Carthage, Gilmer, Texarkana, and out to Nacogdoches. Always productive. Again, he's the brother of Keontae Ingram, who played running back at the University of Texas and now is transferred on to USC. But you got to see his playmaking ability in the Valero Alamo Bowl. Hauled in a 73-yard touchdown pass from Casey Thompson. Longest reception by a UT freshman bowl game of all time. Again, one of Clint's stats. And has the ability to take the top off the defense. Again, a guy like Worthy. Again, like a guy like Jaden Alexis. The guys with the Casey Kane, the guys with the verified track speed. Again, you want to send them on those seam routes. You want to send them on those post routes. I think that's what he scored on the touchdown on was the seam route against Colorado. But, yeah, just a guy that, like you said, very, very fast, get the ball in his hands, let him run away from defenders and make plays. But, yeah, very impressed with Kelvonte Dixon. Again, as a freshman, he was able to come in and be productive. A top 300 player in the class in 247's 2019 rankings. But, yeah, excited to see him play this year.
Yeah, there's not a lot to add to that, man. He's a space creator with his speed, and that was the seam route that Casey Thompson hit him over the top, went in for a touchdown there in the Valero Alamo Bowl against Colorado. Really excited about where Kelvonte Dixon's going to play this year. I think he's one of your guys that's going to be battling for one of those starting positions, and I think that may be a conversation that me and Jeremy have at the end of this show. What four guys do we, I guess, see potentially starting this year? And Kelvonte Dixon's one of those guys, man. He's shown what he can do, and I think that's the difference between your guys that are highly touted and talented individuals that really haven't had an opportunity to show what they can do versus a guy that's had an opportunity on multiple occasions and showed what he can do. And I think that goes to playing the position, but it also comes back to a meritocracy and making sure the best guys are out there. And that's going to when they figure out who the quarterback's going to be, the next thing is who are your wide receivers and do they know the route trees and can I put you out there? Can you make plays? Next is, like you said, Alvarte Woodard. Believe it or not, when I went back and looked at this guy, man, you're talking about a 95 rating on the composite 247. But where get to the 40 acres, where you bid at? You're talking about another, pretty big guy, man, 6'2", 193-pound junior. Again, a 4-star, 104 best player in the country in the 2018 class. And we always go back to that 2018 class about, development versus scheme changes. And hopefully Alvante Woodard can put it together, man. He's a big guy. You've seen him show up, 7 receptions, 62 yards over the last 2 seasons. Another guy that played in one of these All-American Bowls. It's kind of just, I don't know if it's, coaching changes, scheme changes, but coming out that highly ranked against all really recruiting platforms says a lot about what they thought he was supposed to be when he came out. I think he just needs to put it together this year and kind of see what we get from Alvante Woodard.
It kind of shows you the difference in progression because he came in with Brendan Eagles in that 18 class, and he redshirted, thus he's a junior. Brendan Eagles decided to come out, and now he's on the Cowboys roster. But these guys came in together, and if I'm not mistaken, they kind of had about the same rating. And now one's playing in the NFL and was productive for 3 or 4 years for the University of Texas, and a guy like Alvante, 6'2", 193 pounds. Again, that frame kind of fits a safety size frame. So you'd like to see, again, another guy who was selected as a top 100 guy, 4-star to Houston, played in an Under Armour All-American Bowl, have more than 7 receptions for 62 yards. Again, you're looking at a guy like Kelvonte Dixon who's coming into his sophomore year that's already been more productive than Alvante Woodard. And again, that tells me go back and look at 3 stars versus 4 stars versus 5 stars and these top 100s versus these top 300s versus these top 500s and see historically what Texas has done with those guys. And that tells you why we're in the position we're in with recruiting in the 2021 landscape, is we got to, get something out of the guys like Kelvonte Woodard. But again, it's a meritocracy. And now we're talking about probably 7 or 8 down the list of the guys we've already talked about. Is he going to get playing time? He's going to have to be really productive in the fall, going to have to make plays in the fall to find himself in that group of 4 or 5 that you were talking about just a little bit earlier.
Yeah, looking at number 7. And then some other guys, man, we'd probably get beat up if we don't bring up, obviously Kai Money. This showed up last year and into the spring game, number 83. I think he won up a lot of people's hearts last year. 6 foot, 179-pound junior there. And then kind of go down a couple of other wide receivers here. And Jaden Alexis, 6 foot, 188-pound freshman, like we had talked about. He's got speed for days. And then Dejon Harrison, the same thing, speed, 5'10", 165-pound freshman. And Casey Kane is 6'3", 192-pound freshman as well. Your thoughts, man, on the last 4 guys, and then who do you see, or what's your projections, man, as far as the wide receiver room looks like at the end of the fall and who may start?
Okay, so yeah, going back to Kai Money, Kai Money, I believe last year was kind of looked at. He kind of got collateral damage with Tom Herman, with the whole wide receiver rotation. But this guy was very, very productive, and he continued that in the spring game. That was Steve Sarkisian's offense that he was running in the spring game, and we were there. And he was, I want to say he was Hudson Card. He was working with Hudson Card, his favorite receiver in the spring game. I think he caught like 5 or 6 balls. So again, a walk-on guy who's been presented a scholarship and been very productive in that wide receiver room. Now, how much playing time he'll get when the regular season starts, I don't know. A guy like Alexis you're talking about is a slot receiver, an early enrollee who we got to see in the spring game as well. Dejon Harrison sat out last year for COVID, so he's, again, coming into his freshman year. Another slight guy, slot receiver, 5'10", 165-pound freshman out of Hutto. And then Casey Kane, a kid from Worthington High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. Very productive there, but that frame, 6'3", 192 pounds, but has that verified track speed. So good size speeds combination from Casey Kane. Just interested to see what these guys – how they progress, how they perform in the fall, and see where they end up in the 2 deep, 3 deep once the season starts. But, yeah, as far as these guys and productive playing time or seeing the field, I think Kai Money's probably the only one of these 4, but we'll see. Definitely we'll see. And then my projections for the starters, if we go 4 wide, to me, positionless, at this point it's got to be Whittington, Moore, Worthy, Omeire, and then if it's not the freshman Worthy, then it's got to be Kelvonte Dixon or Marcus Washington. So I got a good feel about 6 of them. It's just where are those guys going to end up being placed on the football field at the same time. And again, being 6 deep allows you to get to tap your helmet brakes and to maybe deal with a sprained ankle in the season and continue to provide depth at this receiver core.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now is 6. It is really, really, really comfortable with those 6 guys right now. You're talking about, but to me, that four right now would be Jordan Whittington, Josh Moore, Xavier Worthy, Kelvonte Dixon, between Xavier Worthy and Kelvonte Dixon there. And then obviously Troy Omeire, matchup nightmare one-on-one there. And then you got tight ends you got to worry about getting the ball to at this particular point. You got some really, really talented tight ends that are probably going to steal some of these balls away as well. But really excited about, a rotation of 6 at this particular point. And again, I don't think you're going to have a lot of rotations in and out of there for the wide receiver core this year. Best guys are going to play. They're going to play a lot of snaps, which is, that's how you win ball games. But really excited about this wide receiver core. Anything you want to add before we end this show?
No, man, just I want to see if they're all gas, no brakes. That's the title of the podcast is Can They Be All Gas, No Brakes? Again, you touted them or Phil Steele touted them as the number 1 or number 9 receiving core in the nation. Let's see if they can live up to that.
Absolutely, man. All right. Hopefully you like this podcast. If you did, please hit that like button. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. And hit that notification bell. We're putting out a lot of content these days. I think we're as we're working on this one, I think we have like 3 or 4 or 5 other shows that we're currently working on as well. So please hit that notification bell. And again, please give us your comments of who you think may start once the fall ends as far as wide receiver position goes. Thank you for listening. As always, you can find us on Twitter at TX Football Talk, on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, and on Instagram at Texas Football Talk. Thank you for listening as always, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.